All right, Sam, let's talk about Matt Taibbi's book, Hate Ink again. So last time you had read or listened to a bit of it and I hadn't at all. So now, since then, things have changed a little bit. How far are you into the listening process? Are you pretty much done with the parts that you were interested in, or?
Yeah, I've got like, let me tell you, I've got 4 hours left. I am, I'm in chapter 12, so
Okay.
I've got like four
So
chapters. Plus,
you're
like, this is, yeah, I'm almost done.
so you're listening to the full thing, and I've read like the first few chapters really, so the intro, the note, first two chapters, then some random chapters, and then his interview with Chomsky as well. And I don't think you need to read every chapter for it to make sense, because the book is actually a compilation of
Collection of,
collection of articles that were written. They relate to each other, but yeah. So let's talk. I liked some stuff in it a lot, which I'll be mentioning. Some other things that was less sold, or have just some small criticisms. I'm sure you as well. So should we get into it? So
sure.
I thought
Yeah,
we
I
could
had a bit.
start this way. Sorry for cutting you off. I thought we could start this way. I'm just gonna say what I think the book's main argument is, and I copy pasted his words, but he didn't say like this is the main argument, but this is what I think he was saying. The book was saying.
Mhm.
So he says that I discovered the Chomsky-Herman diagnosis, and he's referring to, of course, the manufacturing consent book here. He found manufacturing consent to be mostly right. Okay, so I mean, he agrees fully with that book. Moreover, he wrote, the academics prove prescient about future media deceptions like the Iraq War. Their model predicted the hideous episode in Technicolor. So the takeaway here is that manufacturing consent, he gives two big thumbs up. But then he goes on to say, but neither Herman nor Chomsky could have known when they published their book in 1988 that the media business was going through profound change. So he nevertheless says that, and I pretty much got that from here. So these are the three profound changes that he mentions. I think if we go through these as well, then we can already pretty much start, I think, dissecting it. I think from now on is pretty much fair. So these are the three that he says. These sentences that I wrote were just from right before this. One, he says, is the explosion of conservative talk rock and Fox style news products.
Talk radio.
Using news products.
You said
talk radio.
rocks.
Oh, I said talk rock. Talk radio and Fox
That's
style
Hard
news
Rock
products.
Cafe.
Right. Using point of view rather than objectivity as commercial strategies. So anyway, one of them is the conservative talk radio and Fox style news products. There is one thing I want to say here is that, okay, fine, they now don't pretend, these ones don't pretend to be necessarily objective because they agree that they're kind of giving their opinion on a take. But it's not like other forms of news media were rather objective, right? In the sense that, maybe the anchor didn't give their take, right? But the editors and, whoever, the producers and all that told them what the news should be, and that's influenced by all kinds of things. So I just want to say this objectivity thing, although things have changed, although now openly in these shows you're giving your opinion, so you're not objective, it's not like the other version is so objective for this difference to be that drastic in some levels. I think, I don't know if you
I know what you mean. Like,
yeah, what do you think of that? Is that unfair?
Object. Look, I think there is something. I feel like the left in general, postmodernism and stuff. If you read Weber is one of the, I think, first social scientists that talks about objectivity and stuff, and how you cannot be fully ever objective
For
as a
sure.
social scientist. But at the same time, Weber is also saying no, but we have to still try to
Attempt, yeah. But
attempt
news
to.
medias don't
But
even attempt to be objective.
they used to.
No.
Yeah. It was much more unconsciously, I think, done than it is now. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
So the government
American.
and and news, big news outlets that are close to governments, they didn't know what they were saying when they were like,
No,
biased
no, the
towards other
governments.
governments and domestic stakeholders. Of course they did. I think that's ridiculous,
I
making the
look,
past of the media seem like these, like, oh, they didn't even know what they were doing.
no, they look. I think especially on national or local issues. Let's put aside foreign issues, domestic issues. On domestic issues, right? They were the news people who worked in the news at the time were genuinely, like, for example, they were looking at healthcare and then they were coming up with ideas. They weren't, and then they would get a stay or not a stay if those ideas were popular. But nowadays it's all like you
I don't know. I don't
pre.
believe that. Why would it have been like so like that back in the day?
I think why? Because there was less, I would say, money and commercialization of media. To be
True. So
honest,
they could
it
have
was
been
there was
more
more
of it.
governmental control. Sorry.
Yeah, they could
It's
have.
like it's like the difference why in the Europe is slightly less. The news is less polarizing. I look polarizing. That's a word that I would actually. No, I mean my
I don't know. Look
disagreement
at
with Matt
DW's
Taibbi.
coverage, right now of with
Don't you
Russia,
think on
Ukraine.
Russia, Ukraine, but look at DW's coverage on domestic issues. Do you think it's the same as CNN?
But perhaps
Because
you can,
DW,
but that could just also be to a large, okay, fine. You can say a lot of it perhaps has to do with the style of media in the US, but maybe it
yeah,
also has
that's
to
what I
do
mean.
with the social issues themselves as well, too. They are perhaps bigger or more well-known or more rampant or more vocal and all that. The US is also different contextually from those places. So the media also maybe, reflects a lot of the polarization that already exists in society, which Germany maybe has less, and maybe some of those groups are just able to be much more
Yeah.
vocal in the
No, that's what
US.
I think. That I think even Matt Taibbi would agree with that. That it is
Yeah.
because of those. I would but I would say that if you like try to be objective and look at the media landscape in 80s and 90s, and then you look at media landscape in knots and then 2000s, it is more like it does feel like people are purposely more, let's say, pandering to an audience or
Yes.
a target. Even look at our own show.
No,
Like
no,
our
no,
own
for
show
sure,
is
for sure.
explicitly a very, very tiny minority.
So, okay, exactly. And I think all of this, and I think I agree with that. And hold on, point 3 brings exactly to that. So actually, let's get to that. So point 2, he actually talks about the introduction of 24-hour cable news stations. Yeah, that's interesting. A different change now that has come. It's 24 hours. Although he
You see
doesn't
that,
come back to this
read the
too much.
shift. It shifted the emphasis of news business. Reporters were suddenly trained to value breaking news, something we see now CNN until recently have been utilizing very much. So I think it's I mean, I think
Yeah, that's a good
it's a
one.
reflection of changing commercial scene, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think.
But again, I mean, I will come back, but my main argument is that just because the news media has always been so bad, that these changes aren't that consequential on the societal level, I think, because news media was already so bad and a
I
lot of the problems that we
100%
talk
agree with
about existed already, that the impact that some of these changes have had in the style of reporting anything is still not that consequential. But to your other point that you were making, the development of the internet, which was only getting off the ground. So he doesn't even push this far enough, if you ask me, Matt Taibbi, although he has a really good way of talking about how he has a nice part, I'll say it in the good things I'll mention about how, the targeting happens with social media. But yeah, you're right. I think that is one thing that happened now. Before on TV, they had to pretty much target all of America, right? So they could kind of hate on some groups internally that it was okay, I guess, at a societal level to hate on, very widespread, and then also foreign countries, that's very easy. Then after that, when there were more TV channels and the era he's talking about, talk radio and Fox style news, I think that gave them a new level of targeting. So now you can just target Republicans or people that like the right-wing kind of views and exclude Democrats. And then now with the internet, you can even further target, refine where you reach the level that we are able to target the 3 people who pretty much, like what we say and would watch that.
Out of the 3 people we target, we lose 2. Only one is.
But I would just say that right now, so we're just able to more talk to people exist through this visual medium. But before, these differences all existed, and people, newspapers were much more targeted, I'm guessing, at that time. Or perhaps if newspaper weren't, magazines were other forms of print. So, a leftist or blah, blah, could go get their special kind of magazine, or find this other place, or go to talk to their friends even, right? Get their dose of what they like. But yeah, in the TV visual, you can see these changes. And another criticism that I would even give to Matt Taibbi is perhaps he says that he's talking about the media, but it's really focused on the changes with cable TV, really. I think he didn't dive that much into perhaps print media as well, make the arguments.
It's political media, there. Really.
Yeah. So, but I think now we've put forward his main arguments and this. So from now on, I can challenge a bit more the good things, and then you go ahead, tell me.
No, it's just I think I agree with his analysis largely, and I love his narrative about how things happen. It kind of reminded me of Weber's Protestant ethics, because if you look at Protestant ethics because some people view it as an alternative explanation for rise of capitalism to the one that Marx gives, right? That it was more ideologically based. If you see it that way, I disagree. But if you see it as a complement to the materialistic analysis, as this is how materialistic forces shape media, right? But I feel a lot of places Matt Taibbi's work goes on to kind of imply at least that the media itself became important in shaping things and politics. And I think that's where in my view, it goes too far, and I don't like it. And,
I mean, he has one. I know exactly. If I only could find where you could. He says, what does he say? Because there's one part he pretty much says people who say that we contributed to Trump's election say, no, how could you have done that? And then his response is like, well, how would you even know that we didn't do that? How would you study that? But then you could also say the same thing to his, like, how do you know that your level of contribution and all that was that high to to Trump getting elected? But
okay,
I don't know how to find
I haven't. Well, I think to be honest, trace the underlying liberal anxiety, which we all share as kind of liberal subjects. But I'll get to that. I have a specific quote from the book. Okay. So maybe you want to outline your other.
Yeah, let me say a few other things that come of a few other, one or two smaller criticisms, and then, but there's also the good stuff. But one criticism is that a lot of it, so this book was written in 2019, and a lot of it, I think, is Trump specific and speaks to, the influence that Trump really had. And how he was covered in the media. So the whole part where he talks about, Trump is the heel and the media covered him as the heel, and, everything went up, profits went up and all this. Yeah, these are all very Trump specific. So, some of the things I just thought were just more related to Trump, and his analysis of Trump was good, but less so about generally the media, very much reserved to Trump, I would say. So that is just that one. And then any other criticism? Okay, so this one, I just want to read this. This is another example that, the media, I feel like with these 3 paragraphs, just the media has always been shitty, and, and it just continues to be shitty. So he wrote, Chomsky and Herman wrote about how the elite reaction to America's military loss in Vietnam was to create a revisionist history that not only steered us away from the reality of American crimes and policy failures, but set the stage for future invasions and occupations, blah, blah, blah. So the press sheepishly abandoned a lot of its excessive democratic practices. So they were forced already during that time to change their behavior to press. right here, in the same way, conventional wisdom at 2016 voters steered attention away from generation of press practices that had degraded the presidential practice. So, it's just the same things I think have been done in the past and are done
It's
to
the
the
same
present,
thing, but done in a
done
different way.
slightly different way.
It's the
And
same goals, different tactics.
of course, with the current state that we have.
Yeah.
But then, some of the good stuff.
I think your analysis about how cable and then internet allowed for further targeting of more, I think that's, to be honest, the key, really. That's
the most,
because that's the communicative structure that has changed, really. Like 50 years ago, people didn't have phones, in their pockets. And by the way, let's not forget, more than 100 million people in America don't vote. Like, this is, again, that gets to my main criticism. So I'll leave that for you.
Yeah. Okay. And all right. So I have a bit about Chomsky, but we can come back to that later. But some of the good stuff, are you going to talk about the 10 rules of hate? Because he had some funny good ones in there.
Yeah, I have something to read from that, but it's more about the underlying, I think, underlying cause for this book. But what's the Chomsky stuff?
Oh, the Chomsky one is pretty much that. So he interviewed Chomsky, right?
Yeah.
To talk to him about how things have changed after manufacturing consent. And I think he tried, at first he was just asking Chomsky, how did you write manufacturing consent? How was the process, all this? And then at one point he wanted to move to his thesis of the book. And I feel like Chomsky really didn't bite on it or really know where Matt Taibbi wanted to go. So I feel like that interview, it really didn't add anything to Matt Taibbi's
really
pretty much thing, because he doesn't really support, he doesn't really get into it. And in fact,
I must say,
Chomsky doesn't get into it. And in fact, Chomsky had a
I need to read
where is
this
it
for sure.
Okay,
Chomsky has a habit of coming off as very, very dismissive, in my view, in his interviews with people, especially about new ideas. And sometimes I love it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't love it so much. So it could be just the Chomsky, just a stylistic thing, not, you know what I mean?
Where did I get it from?
Just, if anybody has time, just read the email exchanges between Chomsky and Sam Harris. It's some of the funniest. But Chomsky is so dismissive.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I don't think.
Yeah, whatever, man. Do whatever you like, man.
Yeah, there we go. But I don't think he behaves that way here.
All right.
Too much. He just doesn't really get, because Matt Taibbi, keeps on trying to how things have changed. A lot of people or fellow reporters have commented to me over the years that things have changed, but he doesn't get to. I feel like Chomsky doesn't really say, talk about that. And in fact, Chomsky says this, for instance, but I think in a lot of ways it's hard to measure. But my impression is that the media are probably more free and open than they were in the 50s and 60s. So I found that
that's definitely true.
So there are also some other ways that the media has perhaps gone that we don't talk about, or that this further targeting, it allows it allows at least for niche progressive content to exist perhaps more freely, although I'm not saying that has an impact leading to socialists taking over the United States of America. But in terms of content being available, there are also some positive things, I guess. Point out.
I think if you try to be objective, undeniable that it's definitely more free, like in terms of what you can talk about. But is it more concentrated also in terms of
that's something Matt Taibbi doesn't get into. I found interesting. He didn't talk about media concentration.
But that even is a very difficult proposition, because do we count YouTube channels like ours is
you look at the big ones. You're right. You're right.
You know what I mean?
Depends where you're looking at
media landscape anymore.
But among the big ones, in those cases you can see that it has a lot of them have bought other ones. And
So but in many ways, it's very difficult to talk about, and as very difficult to measure, as I think Chomsky points out here. Very interesting.
But so I didn't love the book. I didn't find it to be that interesting or super
Compared
super
to his other
informative.
books, no.
Yeah, I haven't read his
His
other
other books.
books, and this one
Oh
too, I haven't
well,
fully read it. I mean, so if I were to be very harsh, and who the hell am I? Like, look at where I am. But
yeah.
I would
Yeah,
give him I think I would give a book like a 6 out of a 10.
all right. Yeah.
Some of the
I
stuff
mean,
were interesting. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know exactly. Maybe I give it a bit more because it's a bit funny. I like the tone, but yes, between 6 to 8, let's say somewhere.
well, that makes a bit. What 6? It was a big jump from 6 to 8. Between 6 and 7,
Not
if you want.
no,
No,
come
man,
on.
eight's a good
Okay,
book.
so I'll go for 7. Don't haggle with it. I don't. So, do you want to talk about some of the positive things before I read my
The 10 rules of
final
hate
analysis?
are some of my
Yeah, yeah,
favorites. So I feel like we'll come to
yeah.
that. He also mentioned something else that was actually interesting. But the threat of being sued and having advertisers pull their ads. I mean, it's nothing, revolutionary new, but it's been going on forever. But he mentioned some cases. So when they kind of realize more and more that sometimes it's not really worth doing that kind of work, which of course. And then he also, this was absolutely enlightening in general, but in life too. Listen to this about how the media works, and I would say, frankly, how the world works. And this is the last thing I'll say. American news companies at the time didn't, and still don't, forbid the writing of unpatriotic stories. There are no editors who come blundering in, red pen in hand, wiping out politically dangerous reports in the clumsy manner of Soviet commissars. So I think that's like the best thing. And then he goes on to say, instead, in a process that is almost 100% unconscious, news companies simply avoid promoting dissenting voices. People who are questioners by natures, prodders, pains in the ass, all good qualities in reporting, incidentally, get weeded out by bosses, especially in the bigger companies. This is like everywhere. If you go work at Nike, nobody tells you I always give this shitty example that, don't promote Adidas or don't shit on Adidas and promote, don't shit on Nike and promote Adidas and Reebok here, right? Same thing here, don't shit on the US government for no reason and don't shit on some big corporations for no reason. Say good stuff about these people as much as possible. And, if you're a person,
by the way, that's why I sometimes when the on the left, I know I sound like, sometimes I sound like those right-wingers that are like, why don't you get a real job or something? But it does feel sometimes people have never, like, can you believe it? What was it on Twitter or some organization? They broke into the offices of the managers, broke into the meeting and were protesting Dave Chappelle or something.
Okay.
Do you remember that? We covered that.
For Spotify?
Spotify, no, I think it was Spotify or something. I don't remember. But anyway, Rogan. It was Joe Rogan. Anyway, but they were like, can you believe it? Then the managers were able to fire. Have you been to real life? Like, seriously, and
not that it's good, not that I don't
necessarily good, but
and also I don't want news organizations specifically to be like this. I mean, that's for sure. It's fine if Nike's like that, but it shouldn't be like that for a news organization technically, especially like a semi-public big one. Perhaps that would be my favorite, that would be my preference. But
if you want to have a company or a project done, at some point somebody has to make decisions, and there has to be some kind of I hate this to say this, I'm reminded of someone I don't like, but there has to be some kind of hierarchy.
Not even that. I just meant in a news agency. Sorry, you're okay. Yeah, that I understand. Yeah, decision making. No, sorry. I was just saying that at the news agencies, you wouldn't wish for there to be like, dogmatic ideas that are in people's heads. In Nike, it's okay, right? If so, everybody just thinks Nike's the best. But in news agency, technically, it should be like an open-minded atmosphere.
that's the
Technically,
ideal.
yeah.
That's the ideal. Yeah.
Yeah. But it can, and then it can vary on the spectrum. Some places it's better. Some places it's the
Fox
absolute
News.
worst. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, anyways.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Al Jazeera, they're probably like there you probably have the most variety of subjects. They're like
Again, it
everything in
depends.
Sudan you can cover.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Everything.
Can I talk about? No, shut the fuck up. Okay. It depends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mali for
So
sure. Yeah, that one community that no one knows about. Go at it.
Nigerian minority, of
Here's
course.
unlimited budget. Take 10 cameramen, get some nice shots of nature. But yeah, I've
So
done enough
yeah.
talking. That's
Do you have any more
all I
positive
have.
things to say about this?
No, the 10 rules of hate, maybe I'll
That's
just
fine.
refer to some of them when you're talking, because some of them were really good.
Okay.
Some of them are really good.
All right. So before that, I think this is the underlying anxiety that led to Matt Taibbi writing this book. This is my argument, and I think it's kind of, this passage is kind of hinted at it, but that's the feeling I got. But okay, so I think the book betrays the anxiety that, if like, which increasingly becoming apparent for people, that media and education, frankly, it seems not to matter at all. Like, it seems very sort of almost reactionary, perhaps, to say this, but it seems clear that no matter how much people know about other people's stuff, like there is that famous part in, I think it's in Communist Manifesto, that the workers will see the chains of their chains to the to the whatever, to the factory and to
Okay,
each
yeah, yeah.
other, and together they can, together, when as one, they can break these chains away. Well, it seems everybody saw the chains and went, okay, how can I use this chain to suffocate the next person to get more chains? Like, that seems to have been the reaction by so I feel like it's just his whole book is and he mentions that in a part in very early on, that it's kind of as a therapy thing.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
working throughout his own problems, and I kind of feel like, yeah, like it's just that media doesn't matter at all. Like,
Oof.
that
Yeah.
I mean, that's my point. But
Here,
listen,
the book quickly
oh,
became
go
more
ahead.
confessional than academic study. It's about the invisible pressures of the business I've been in for nearly 30 years now. Commercial media has always been sensationalistic. We're never not encouraged to aim content at your outrage center. We're always eyeball hunting. So first, I think you were more interested in this first sentence, but the other sentences
Yeah,
made my point that it's always kind of been like this, and the differences are in the margin, are in the margins, that in a way, in a sense. But yeah,
it's just accelerated, as
yeah, and
everything
like a
does
different
throughout
way,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
yeah, does the
this
media
part,
not matter at all, though? I mean, I would like to
yeah,
push back on that, but maybe I'll come back next week.
no, I genuinely, no, it doesn't matter at all.
It depends what matter. What's your definition of
Means
matter? Yeah,
it
we'll
matters
come
a
back.
lot to my personal life. It doesn't matter at a structural level. But listen to this. Unlike Rush Limbaugh, who in his early days was a serviceably witty top 40 disc jockey in Pittsburgh, Hannity was charmless. He was not literate like William Safire or Bill Buckley, nor was he an entertainingly unstable wreck like Glenn Beck, nor could he talk volubly about Marx and other thinkers like Michael Savage, a person who clearly has read more than 3 or 4 books. So then,
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, we just read the quote, I believe, in its entirety.
oh yeah, sorry about that. I had a bit of a thing, and then I've lost track of what I was saying, so I might repeat myself. But I think okay, this was fascinating to me because Bill Buckley is always somebody who always he's like, his name is a bit of a trigger thing for me. As you know, William Buckley, as we discussed, he had a big debate with Gore Vidal back in the days, and in my view, he's a founder of National Review, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, National Review, yeah, and a lot of other conservative stuff. And he's in many ways architect of the modern America. He won really his war with Gore Vidal, and uh, in many ways you can see him as the father of everything that has come uh, onwards. Yeah, this is from his famous show. Yeah, National Review. That's the one he found. This his famous show. What was it? It was Crossfire before Crossfire. He would bring in famously brought in Chomsky among others, and then he talked like very much like that. And I don't want to say you're a queer, but if I have to, I have to punch you in the face. Famously said he's gonna punch Gorville. He had more gum than teeth, really, like about 70%. He famously also extremely, I mean, weirdo is just one way of putting it. He was I mean, he was born in Mexico, if I'm not. He had the weirdest mid-Atlantic accent, and I'll get to the real weirdo. The real weirdo part is that this guy always, like William F. Buckley, he was, in my view, and many people could disagree with me, was the most closeted sort of anti-gay homosexual. Like, it was just, he was so obviously gay. Like, he was just such a, I mean, look, we are all dandies, especially these days. If you're a middle class man, you're pretty much a dandy and all that. But it was such a dandy, fancy, like, we used to go swimming with the boys, and I used to slap them on the bottom, and then we used to jump. And there's all these weird anecdote of other conservative writers meeting him and going swimming with him and playing games and splashing water to each other. Like,
we don't do that if we meet. If we ever go swimming together, have you invited me?
A cameo!
Spanking each other with towels.
Exactly. Come on, boy.
Run after each other around the pool.
Boy, this is not gay, boy. I'm just, this is just men just bonding. There's nothing gay about it. A creep, frankly, a weird creep, probably a CIA agent. He had some involvement with
this
CIA.
Picture scared me. That's why it switched back to this.
I mean, I must say, when I was a kid, though, I looked at his picture and I was like, yeah, he looked like a real man. So, you're a kid. But he's...
I mean, he looks better here and stuff. Oh, no. Oh, actually, well, everyone's teeth looked like that back then. There you go. It's better.
No, man, he had the biggest, when he's like half of his impression when you're doing his impression is just like, Robin Williams used to do fantastic impression of him. There's a great SNL sketch with Robin Williams and Eddie Murphy where it's just the perfect parody of him, because they're talking about the sudden combustion of black men, like sudden explosion of black men, and that was his show. He would bring on some fucking ludicrous, like constant, what do you think about? Do you think Christian? Do you think by moving away from Christianity, perhaps we're moving away from God?
All right. So bringing him back to
this is okay.
How Matt Taibbi refers to him. So do you have a problem with the way he goes about talking about him?
So no, not really. But he's comparing all these William Safire, Buckley with the modern versions of them, like Hannity, right? And Bill Buckley for me is always a big reminder of a Steven Crowder, because Steven Crowder is the modern version of Bill Buckley in the sense that he's a conservative commentator who's so in the closet and so obviously in the closet that it's just weird. Like, he takes every opportunity to dress as a female, and he's like, he literally had a sidekick who was like called, I don't know, like John Not Gay Michaels or something. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gay, man. I'm not gay, all that masculine sort of culture. And they're saying the same shit. The only difference was Bill Buckley used to drop in Ulysses or fucking Iliad or, some bullshit classic. Oh, I was just reading Cicero and Cicero writes blah, blah. And Steven Crowder talks about, beer and football and those gray, it's the same shit. It's just one. It's just the aesthetical difference. That all there
So
is
yeah,
to these
so he's saying,
motherfuckers.
yeah, so Matt Taibbi is saying Fox promoted Sean Hannity as their perfect vision of conservative manhood. And then he goes, unlike Rush Limbaugh, he was not literate like William Safire or Bill Buckley. So here he's saying that, you know, these group of people are qualitatively like better than Sean Hannity. And
Definitely different.
The kind of work that they put out.
Yeah. It's not, they're not quite as just.
Yeah. I mean, you know, he says good stuff.
They don't have as
them,
much of as a tunnel vision as yeah. But my point, you know, was that what, like, I was trying to see, like,
sorry, I tried to steal your point to make
no,
back my own points.
No, go ahead. But
we have our own agenda here.
The degeneration that we talk about in media is almost purely aesthetical thing. It's a rhetorical and aesthetical thing, and I agree. I don't like it. I prefer when Bill Buckley was debating Chomsky to Hannity screaming at some fucking social activist. You know, but it's a purely aesthetical thing. There is no, Bill Buckley wasn't giving anybody any more substance than Steven Crowder is, but his fucking fancy accent, you know, it was all the same fucking crap being shoveled. So yeah, that's I just had that in my mind.
No, I definitely agree with you.
So I thought I'd bother you with it. Yeah.
No, good stuff. What do you have anything else that you want to discuss about Matt Taibbi's book?
Not really. No, the Bill Buckley one really like gave me that sort of a light bulb thingy, but no.
Oh yeah, do you want to watch a bit of Bill Buckley, or I mean, this is a 9-minute one, but if people want to get a sense of him, I'm not going to lay a finger on you. And the quality is this one's not the best.
Pause. I mean, if you can find, there is a bit in it, maybe.
So this is with Woody Allen.
Yeah, this is with Woody Allen. There's a bit further. I think it's muted for now, but it's about. This is Woody Allen had a show. And there's a lady where she asks, go back. It's a blonde lady. I think it's further back that asks. It's just here. I think it's this lady that asks him about like women in miniskirts, because he was, by the way, extremely conservative. He was a member of Knights of the Malta, who are considered the sovereign entity in international politics and conduct their own diplomatic relations.
Really?
It's a Catholic order. Yeah, exactly. You almost, it's too stupid to believe that he's part of a stupid Catholic secret society, but he was. And you know, and then I mean, look, this gives you a glimpse of his charm and his, you know, the way he conducted himself.
Yeah, let's try. The audio quality is quite bad here, but let's give it a go.
The way that it is the way that it accomplishes certain things that some people want very much to accomplish. Israeli independence.
Yes. Mr. Allen, do you know George Hamilton?
No, I don't actually know George Hamilton. I've seen him only in one picture, and I don't.
Why do you think he went to the wedding?
Why did he go to the wedding? I had heard a rumor that he was going.
It's fair. It's way earlier, I think, but it's not that. No, way earlier. I think it's pretty much early. Let's go further. Yeah, just here-ish. Oh, here. This lady.
It's the same lady.
Lady, what's your question?
Mr. Buckley, do you think miniskirts are in good taste?
Do I think what?
Miniskirts are in good taste.
On you, I think they are.
This is the noble media of the past.
This is the noble media of the past, my friend. Woody Allen, a sexual pervert, talking to both alleged sexual perverts talking to each other. Yeah.
Oh my God.
His legs are in good taste.
That was too funny, man. Hold on, we have to rewatch.
That could be anybody, including the Boston Strangler. I want to ask a question because there's somebody in the dock there or at the lectern.
Mr. Buckley, who would you like to see as the presidential nominee for...
Man, this show's a joke. Where did this lady go?
After this guy. She's after him.
There we go.
What's your question?
Mr. Buckley, do you think miniskirts are in good taste?
Do I think what?
Miniskirts are in good taste.
On you, I think they are. Stiff legs are in good taste.
But this was his charm, though. He was,
for
you
that
know what I mean?
Back in the day, that passed as charm. Not
You know, exactly. It's an
one
old man
era's
charm,
charm,
sort of.
another era's harassment.
No, come on. Don't. No,
On TV, Matt, you go do that. I want to see you in any setting. Someone asks you,
look at me.
and
Well,
you tell them,
no,
they'll
come on.
beat you
This
to
was a
death right
harmless
there,
joke.
and I won't come to your defense.
Thanks, I have such good friends. But no, I feel like this was a harmless joke. But his trick, you see, all his tricks are rhetorical. You know, this was a good answer, but it didn't answer his real. Like National Review was a conservative magazine that put out articles that pretty much blamed women for being raped because they were wearing mini skirts at the time. And what he does there is just the trick of the time, and it's just the, you know, that's all he is, just a slightly more refined charlatan than Crowder.
No, very good point there.
But I wouldn't call
Just
it
as you-
harassment. I feel you went a bit too
I don't know.
woke
I don't
there
know
for my
about that. Yeah, no.
It was like a joke.
I don't know. Public setting to a stranger, that's like, you know, uncomfortable, that's for sure.
It's like an old man when they see like a girl and they go, "Oh, you're so pretty. I would have."
That's different. And those two weren't like that. He was like, 10, 15 years maybe older.
I guess he's
Like
not
a
that
news
old,
thing.
I suppose. Yeah.
But yeah, so Matt Taibbi had one chapter, just to wrap it up for me at least, where he talks about 10 rules of hate. And I really like some of these. So just a few I'm going to mention. One is, number one, there are only two ideas. So, you know, conservative or liberal, left or right, communist or capitalist, Soviet Union capitalist or United States. And, you know, I always complain about false dichotomies, capitalist, sorry. So, you know, I hate those. And they don't only exist in the media. You witness these everywhere in life. But yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, you're so right.
Hate people, not institutions. This was an interesting one. I like that. This is pretty cool. The over focus on the people.
My sort of adage to that is hate people and institutions.
And institutions, yeah. But it's not done.
What's not done?
In the media, he's saying that, you know, in the media they hate on people but not on institutions so much.
On the left, I think it's the opposite. So I feel like
perhaps.
they love people but hate institutions, and that's a big problem, because when you talk, people are good. I mean, education system is crap, but everybody who comes out of it is a lovely person.
No. He doesn't mean, he's not talking about the people in that way. He means like, you know, hate like Trump, hate the president, hate like, you know, the attorney general or something, or hate like this lawyer. It's not the institution or the system's fault. I think that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, sure.
Then he has another one. This is a great one. Everything is someone else's fault.
That's definitely.
And this one follows with it. And nothing is everyone's fault. This is a really good one. I think that was it. Oh, and this one. Yeah. Number 8.
Well, all of them, you've basically.
No, they're all good, but yeah, the other side is literally Hitler.
Literally, yeah, that was good.
But yeah, like, I mean, you know, he pretty much, his book is like manufacturing consent. 99% of everything agrees manufacturing consent, and then 1% of the new changes and his thesis and his experience on the road and all that.
It's a much easier and better read than manufacturing. I'm sorry to say.
No,
this,
much more fascinating. Manufacturing consent, I would be much more fascinated reading it. I would, you know, with this book, I rarely had a moment where I read it and put it down and I was like,
And what, manufacturing consent? When you read it, you had that moment?
Perhaps 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I read it, there was more of a chance where I would have gone. I'm not saying it's my favorite book or anything. I don't come out here talking about too much, but Matt Taibbi's book, though, that I just read didn't really leave too many moments like that for me. But yeah, maybe this one either I wouldn't have.
I mean, to be fair, I've only had that reaction with like 2 books in my whole life that I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
Not the whole book, like at least something in it.
Or even, I mean, I never found Chomsky's writing, frankly, aesthetically. Like he's so boring.
But this book is very different, though.
Which book?
Manufacturing Consent, yeah. you know, because of the other writer, you know, the amounts of like graphs, charts, and the
Yeah,
way it's
yeah.
divided, and
Exactly.
it makes
Graph,
his
charts.
arguments clear. He doesn't run away. He puts like mechanisms
No, he never runs away.
forward.
He's
Yeah.
I don't think Chomsky, for example, Chomsky is, you can never say Chomsky is meandering
Mhm.
or he's like, you know, going off topic. He stays on topic extremely boringly. He stays on topic very boringly. And I mean, look, I just, I never found the revelations that to be groundbreaking. But yeah, I would say it would be a good
Yeah,
like
because they
update.
existed.
But
Yeah.
and no, come on, this is like as a read, this is a much easier and better read than manufacturing concept.
Yeah, it's an easy.
It's
Yeah, of course, they're
manufacturing.
two different kinds of books, but I mean, you know,
Yeah, it's
just my
one is
personal
academic.
preference. I found that more interesting. Yeah, it was. I'm not. Yeah, it definitely was
So weird that
easy
you
to
find
read
like
Matt
an
Taibbi's
academic
book.
book.
No, Matt Taibbi's book was very. I mean, you know, I read I think like 30% of it in a few hours,
Yeah,
but
I
I
know.
could
But
skim
yeah,
some parts. But yeah,
I'm just this is was more. But yeah, it seemed like a good like add-on to manufacturing, like an update to like William again. Domhoff does these things that I've told you about. That he's done a he like he studies democracy in America, and he goes back every few years and updates his book. And he used to be like he used to believe in a pluralistic version of America. He increasingly moved to an elitist model, pretty much close to C. Wright Mill. So yeah, I think like that.
But I don't know. I wouldn't say Matt Taibbi's book like wasn't it. Yeah, just because the style was so different and everything that, you know.
Yeah, it was
not
much
too
better.
much of an addition to manufacturing. I guess we have opposing views here. Let's agree to disagree.
Why
As
do you
two
like graphs
gentlemen
and shit so
from the
much?
60s and 70s let's agree to disagree.
Let's agree.
No, but you're a piece of shit. I hope you die in your sleep. Respectfully.
But I respect.
You're a great man.
Could
who
you
I
kill
hope
yourself?
will choke to death.